Hi everyone, hope you're all doing well. Today's review, I'm going to be reviewing Asking For It by Louise O'Neill. This is about it's about 10 years old. Came out, published about 10 years ago. I will put massive warning for rape and for sexual assault and suicidal ideation. Yeah, I know I've just spoiled it. I don't like content warnings either. But yeah, I know my previous book was about some of the same things. So yeah. So I will read the flap here and then I'll give you my rating. For the book, I completely forgot. Sometimes I completely forget. But in any case, I'll get on with it. Emma O'Donovan is 18, beautiful and fearless. It's the beginning of summer in a quiet Irish town, and tonight she and her friends have dressed to impress. Everyone is at the big party, but all eyes are on Emma. The next morning, Emma's parents discover her in a heap on the doorstep of their home, unconscious. She is disheveled, bleeding, and disoriented, looking as if she had been dumped there in a hurry. She remembers nothing from the party. That day, several devastating photos from the party are posted online and go viral, eventually launching a criminal investigation and sending the community into tumult. The media descends, neighbors choose sides, and people from all over the world want to talk about her story. Everyone has something to say about Emma, whose life has been changed forever by an unthinkable and all too common act of sexual violence, but all she wants is to disappear. I gave this book a 4. Now, I only gave it a 4, primarily because I just read Beartown when I started reading this. Not a good scenario to be put into. I will put, like I said, there's major triggers for suicidal ideation, for sexual violence, and a lot of other things, and I was even bullying. A really interesting book, and looking at how our culture is so permissive of the attitudes. It looks at the attitudes primarily of people, survivors of sexual assault, saying that they were asking for it, which in a lot of cases they were not. I will make that very, very hauntingly clear. I gave it a 4. Solid book. I got this book back in 2016 because a podcaster that I listened to at the time recommended it. And I'm glad I read it eventually, but I don't think I'm going to keep it. I probably will be donating it. I'll probably be giving it to a used bookstore to sell off, because I don't think I'm going to reread it. But definitely was memorable. Definitely was something that I think both boys and girls, like teenagers of both genders, of all genders, I should say, should all read it, because it is important. It is important it is a young adult book. I will mention that also. So it is geared to, I would say, definitely older teens and people in their early 20s, definitely. So I guess what would be coined now as new adult. It has definitely new adult topics, more adultish topics like consent, that sort of thing. Because essentially, Emma is gang raped in this book while drunk and having her drink spiked. So I will say that much, is that she is, I would liken this more to the Hockey Canada thing. And I know some people don't really care for that trial, think that trial was wrong. And I think you can take so many sides on that story, unfortunately. And it's just I think, in honesty, it's all such a sad story in both sides of that. And I will say this, I would highly recommend reading it, despite the content warnings I gave. Because I think it gives a very honest view of things. I won't say what happens in the end. And I think because that is part of the story of this book, is what happens in the end. I will not say what happens, because I know I want you to read it if you can get a hold of it, because I know some libraries may have not. Yeah. Anyway, I highly recommend this book, even though I gave it a 4. I think it has some has some good commentary on sexual assault, sexual violence, and gang rape, and that sort of culture. They are, I believe, at the time of the book, they are about 17, 18 years old when this happens. And it happens to a person who is popular, to a person who you wouldn't expect something like this. And yes, they all talk about how she was asking for it, by the way she was dressed and that sort of thing. And I'm not gonna, I think you can tell by the title, asking for it. It's a common topic of a common practice to say that a sexual assault survivor was asking for it, especially someone who was a teenager at a party with a bunch of drunken young men, was quote unquote asking for it, even though they weren't asking for it. So that was Asking for It by Louise O'Neill. I read it. The reason I read it was one of my online book clubs. We do it by theme / topic. And it was Irish female writers was the topic. And she is an Irish female writer, and this does take place in Ireland. So it fit all kinds, because it was St. Patrick's Day the other day when I'm recording this. So that gives you an idea of when I read it. I read it in March of 2026. Very interesting book, and I do highly recommend reading this. That was Asking for It by Louise O'Neill, and I look forward to talking to you soon.